Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing really well. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make these really cute and simple crochet candles. These are a set of 3 and they are inspired by the vintage retro cakes that you see on Pinterest. This is such a great project idea if you're looking for something a little bit different for Valentine's Day. So let's get into the tutorial. Okay, so for this project I'm going to be using about 50 grams of this double knit white acrylic yarn, and this is going to be the yarn that I'm using for the plate. So you're going to need about 50 grams, and this is because this is the largest section of this project, so you're going to need a little bit more yarn than the rest. I'm then going to be using about 25 to 30 grams of this deep red double knit acrylic yarn, and then I've got again about 25 to 30 grams of this baby pink double knit acrylic yarn. And then for my third stick candle I'm going to be using this cream double knit acrylic yarn, and again I've got about 25 to 30 grams of this. I'm going to be using a 3mm hook today, and some scissors, a sewing needle, some pins, some stuffing, and you'll need enough to stuff 3 candles. I'm going to be lightly stuffing each one, so you won't need too much, but I'm using a combination of polyester toy stuffing and some yarn scraps. And then this is optional, but I am going to be using these pearls to just decorate my red candle, and this is going to be placed on with some embroidery thread. So if you are going to add some like embellishments like this, you will need some embroidery thread and a sharp needle. So I'm going to be starting off with my smaller stick candle, which is going to be the baby pink one, and I'm going to take my yarn and make a slip knot, and I'm going to grab my hook and I'm going to start off with a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you have your chain of 4, you then want to slip stitch into the 4th chain from the hook, and that is going to create a ring that we can crochet into. If you prefer to do the magic ring, then you can do that, but this is just a good option if you don't like doing the magic ring. So I'm going to be crocheting into this larger hole in the center, and for this project I'm going to be doing the yarn under single crochet, which is essentially the exact same thing, we're just yarning under instead of around the hook like this, so yarning over. So I'm going to be starting off all of my candles with 8 yarn under single crochets. So I'm going into my ring, insetting my hook, and rather than doing a yarn over where we wrap the yarn around the hook, we're going to do yarn under. So you kind of just want to catch the yarn underneath the hook like this and pull through. You should have 2 loops on your hook, and then you just want to yarn over as normal and then pull through those 2 loops like that. Okay, so that's your yarn under single crochet. So the second time that we want to finish the stitch, we actually yarn over and under. So again, I'm going to do that 7 more times, so I have 8 single crochets, inserting my hook into the ring, and I am overlapping the short tail so that I can weave that in and create a drawstring at the same time. And I'm going to yarn under, so I'm bringing the yarn underneath the hook and pulling through like that. 2 loops on the hook, then yarn over, so wrapping it around the hook normally, and then pull through those 2 loops. So now I'm going to do that until I have 8 of those. So once you have your 8, you just want to pull the tail so that the hole closes, and if it doesn't fully close you can continue weaving in on the next round, and hopefully that should draw the hole in closed, but don't worry too much about it. So I'm just going to place my stitch marker into that 8th stitch that we made, right there, and that's going to just mark the end of the round. So now I'm going to start my next round, which is round 2, and I'm going to do 2 yarn under single crochets into each stitch. So I'm going into my next stitch on the round, so that was my first one that I made. I'm going to loop over that tail, so I'm just including that in the stitch. Yarn under, so wrapping the yarn underneath the hook and pulling through. 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through. So I'm just going to do that one more time in that exact same stitch, so that I'm basically increasing the stitches by 1. So I'm inserting my hook into that stitch, yarn under, pull through, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. So I've made 2 of those single crochets in that stitch, and I'm going to repeat that into each stitch all the way around. So by the end of the round you should have 16 stitches. So I just completed my last yarn under single crochet, and now I'm just going to place my stitch marker back in that 16th stitch. And now, nice and simple, for round 3 to round 20, I'm just going to do one yarn under single crochet into each stitch. Sorry, it's quite a mouthful, but no increases now for the rest of this stick candle. I'm just going to be doing single crochets round and round and round. And you want to lightly stuff the candle as you go, so maybe after about 4 rounds continue to stuff. And I like to stuff the base of the candle slightly more than the rest of it, because we want most of the weight to go at the bottom, so that when we do place our candles onto the plate that they aren't going to kind of bend to the side. So I'm just going to do my first round of yarn under single crochet. Again, no increases, just one in each stitch. So you should notice after your first round that the yarn will start to curl up a bit. So now I'm going to repeat that, like I said, until I get to round 20. And then in round 21 I'm going to show you how to decrease. And don't forget to stuff the candle. Don't do it too much, otherwise it is going to be kind of too heavy to sit on the plate. So even if that means that your candles are a little bit squishier, like for example this one, as you can see, the base of this candle is definitely more dense, and then at the top I left it a little bit more squishy, and that's completely fine. It doesn't change the shape of the candle at all if you do stuff it less, but as long as you have a little bit more weight at the bottom, that's really what you want. So I've just reached round 20 and now I'm going to start round 21. So we're basically going to be creating the flat top part of the candle. So we're going to be doing the yarn under single crochet, and we're going to be doing that in the back loop, and we're also going to be decreasing at the same time. So this is probably going to be the hardest round, but it's the final round, so hopefully after you've done it, it shouldn't be too difficult. So we're going to be working in the back loop, so that is going to be the stitch furthest away from you on the candle. And we're going to be doing the yarn under single crochet, but we are going to be decreasing, and we're doing a decrease into each stitch because we are going to be reversing the increase round we did at the beginning, which was 2 single crochets in each stitch. This one is going to be like technically 2 decreases per stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop of the next stitch in the round and yarn under and pull through like this. So for the yarn under single crochet, normally we would yarn over at this point and pull through those 2 loops, but to make the decrease at the same time we're going to repeat the exact same step into the next back loop. So I'm going to insert my hook into the next back loop, yarn under and pull through, and now you should have 3 loops on your hook. You're now going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So that is your decrease yarn under single crochet in the back loop. Like I said, the reason we do this in the back loop is because it creates this fold that goes inwards and creates a flat top, just like a stick candle would. So I'm going to repeat that into each stitch, and by the end of the round you will have 8 stitches, just like we did at the beginning. So I'm going to go into my next back loop like this, yarn under and pull through, and then insert my hook into the next back loop, yarn under and pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. So I'll repeat that one more time. Insert my hook into the next back loop, yarn under and pull through, insert my hook into the next back loop, yarn under and pull through, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So I'm just going to continue that until I get to my stitch marker. Okay, Okay, so once you have done your last decrease stitch, you then just want to pull some of that yarn out and cut the yarn. You want to leave a shortish tail but long enough that you can weave it in, and then you just want to pull that loop through. Just pull that loop, and then I'm just going to, with my hook, essentially wrap the yarn around each stitch. So I'm kind of doing a spiral around each stitch, and this is going to create a drawstring. So I'm just going to find my next stitch right here, inserting my hook into it as if I was to do a single crochet, and I'm going to wrap the yarn over the hook and then just pull it through that stitch like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing into the next stitch, insert my hook, wrap the yarn over and pull through. I'm doing that into every single stitch, so that's 8 times in total. So once you have done your last wrap around, you can stuff the extra bit at the top if you need to, but if you don't, then you can just pull really gently on the tail and this should draw the hole in closed, and you might just have to adjust it with your fingers and your hook to create that flat part. And now we can weave the end in. Now I prefer to kind of bring the yarn down to the middle and downwards quite a bit, so I'm just going to insert my hook in this section here of the candle and push it all the way up to where that hole is at the top, then yarn over, and I'm just going to pull that down. So that's what it should look like, and then you want to take some black yarn, just cut a small piece of black yarn, and we're going to be creating the burnt wick. So just cut a small piece and take your hook and just insert your hook anywhere onto the top centre part of the candle like this. So just push it through any point and then pull one part of the black thread through. So just pull one part through like that, and then you just want to create a knot. Make it a double knot if you want it to be extra secure, but I'm okay with it just being a single knot. And then with your hook, the same way that you weaved in that pink yarn, I'm going to do the exact same thing with one of the black pieces of yarn. So just pull that through like that, so that's tucked in. And then with the other piece that's sticking up, you can then cut it to the desired length that you'd like. So normally the wick is kind of short, so I'm just going to do this much and just see how that looks. So that looks good to me, so I'm just going to leave it like that. So that is your small pink candle all finished, and now I'm going to show you the cream candle. Okay, so I'm just going to explain the cream candle because it's slightly taller than the pink candle and it's also slightly thinner, but it's basically the exact same pattern, so I don't really feel like I need to go through it with you because it's pretty simple, but I'm going to have the pattern up on the screen so that you can follow it. So you just want to chain 4 like you did at the beginning and then slip stitch into the 4th chain, and then you want to make 8 yarn under single crochets into the ring. And then the only difference with this pattern is that for your second round, rather than making 2 yarn under single crochets in each stitch, you're going to alternate by doing 1 single crochet in the first stitch and then 2 single crochets in the second stitch, and you will continue that 1 2 1 2 pattern all the way around, which will bring your stitches up to 12 instead of 16, so that's why it's slightly skinnier. And then from round 3 to round 29, you'll just do your rounds of yarn under single crochet, and then you'll do the exact same method of the decrease in the back loop at the top, just like we did for the pink candle. I just wanted to come in here and add that I mentioned that the decrease round for the cream candle is the exact same as the pink. It's not the exact same, but it's pretty similar. So instead of decreasing into each stitch like we did for the pink candle, for the cream candle you want to make a single crochet into the back loop just for the first stitch, and then the second stitch you'll do that decrease in the back loop. So like we did the increase at the beginning, which was 1 2 1 2 all the way around, the decrease round is going to be 1 decrease 1 decrease all the way way around. So that's going to bring your stitches down to 8. I just wanted to make that a bit clear because I said that it was the exact same, which it is not. And then loop your yarn around the top stitches, draw the string in, tuck the ends in, and then add the wick. Okay, so now for the large red pillar candle, I have just got my 8 single crochets in my magic ring, just like I did for the other candles. So I just started off with that. And for my second round, I'm going to do 2 yarn under single crochets into each stitch. Okay, so I've got my 16 stitches in my round, and now I'm going to start my third round, which is going to be just like we did for the cream candle, which was 1 single crochet into the first stitch. So I'm going to do my 1 yarn under single crochet to that first stitch, into the second stitch, 2 yarn under single crochets. So I'm just going to repeat that all the way around, and I will have 24 stitches in my round. So for round 4, instead of 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then 2 single crochets into the second stitch, I'm going to do 1 single crochet into the first 2 stitches and then 2 single crochets into the third stitch. So it will be 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2 all the way around, which will bring your stitches up to 32. And then into the 4th round, we're going to do 3 single crochets and then an increase into the 4th stitch. So that's 1, 1, 1. And then 2 single crochets into the 4th stitch, sorry, and you want to repeat that all the way around. So after your 5th round, you'll have 40 stitches. Okay, so I've now just finished my round 20, and now for round 21 I'm going to do my first decrease round, and I'm going to be decreasing in the back loop. At the beginning we did 4 increase rows, which means that we're going to be doing 4 decrease rows to finish, which is going to start off with 3 single crochets and then a decrease, and again we're going to be doing this in the back loop. So I'm going into my back loop on the next stitch, yarn under single crochet. That's 1, 2, and 3, and now I'm going to do my decrease. So I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop of the next stitch, yarn under and pull through, insert my hook into the back loop of the next stitch, yarn under and pull through, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops like that. So that is going to be the sequence I'm going to complete for this round. So 3 yarn under single crochets in the back loop, 1, 2, 3, and then into the next 2 stitches here I'm going to do my decrease in the back loop like that, and I'm just going to repeat that all the way around. And then for round 22 it's basically the exact same instead. And then for round 22 I'll be doing 2 single crochets in the back loop and then a decrease. So I'm going to repeat that sequence. And then for the following round, round 23, I'm going to be doing 1 single crochet and then a decrease, repeat around. And then for my final round, I'm going to do just decreases, so a decrease into each stitch. Like I said before, you want the base of the candle to have the most weight so that it can stand up nice and straight. So I'm going to just stuff this with a little bit of stuffing. After your final decrease round, you want to just loop the yarn around each stitch, just like I did for the other candles, and then draw that string in to draw the hole in. Tuck the yarn in and then make the wick just by tying a piece of black string and then tucking that in as well. So I'm going to do that now off camera, and then I'm going to come back and show you all the extra details for the candles, and then after that I will show you how to make the plate. So this is what the red candle should look like, and then I've got my other candles here. So I'm just going to set the other two aside, and I'm just going to do a little bit of the extra details for the red candle. So I'm going to do kind of like a retro vintage cake style of decorations, where I do kind of like the icing piping going around the sides. So what you want to do is take a contrasting colour, so I'm going to be using cream so that it kind of looks more effective as icing, and I've got a chain of 60. Now this is going to be enough to create the like lattice shape piping, so what you'll need is a little bit longer than the length that goes around. So as you can see, probably about 15 chains longer than the circumference around the candle, but this might just be something that you have to trial and error, because obviously everyone's tension is different and the size of your candle might be slightly different to mine. So just use 60 as kind of like a ballpark chain amount. So I've got a chain of 60, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip stitch down the chain. So I flipped the chain over to the back, and I'm going to insert my hook into that second back bump where that horizontal line is, so it's the bump right behind the chain, and I'm going to make a slip stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through that back bump, and then I'm going to pull that top loop through the bottom loop like that. So we're kind of slipping the loops into each other. I'm going to repeat that all the way across, so I'm going to insert my hook into the next back bump, yarn over and pull through, and then pull your top loop through the second loop. So now I'm just going to continue that all the way across until I get to the end of the row, and then I will show you row 2. Okay, so I've just finished all of my slip stitches, and now I'm going to start my second row. So I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work around to the back. And you can do whatever stitch you want. I'm going to be doing single crochets for the frills. You can do half double crochets or double crochets, but just bear in mind that your frills will be longer. And my candle is pretty short, so I don't want it to be taking up too much space. So that's why I'm going to do single crochets. And I'm going to be doing 3 single crochets into each stitch. So I'm just going to loop my tail in as I go, and I'm going to be doing a normal single crochet for this. You can do the yarn under single crochet if you just want to keep it the same, but I'm just going to do the normal one. So I'm yarning over, pulling through, yarning over again and pulling through those 2 loops, and I'm going to do 3 single crochets into each stitch. So I'm going into the same one, inserting my hook, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. Again, one more time, into that same stitch, inserting my hook, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2. So I'm just going to repeat that all the way across into each stitch, 3 single crochets into each, and it should create this nice frill. And then once I've done that, I'm going to fasten off, and I'm going to basically just be pinning the frill to the candle. So I'm going to be using my little sewing pins, and I'm going to be pinning it in that kind of piped cake way, where it's sort of like up and down, if that makes sense. And yeah, and then after that I'm going to be using a little bit of embroidery thread to sew that frill on, and then I'm going to show you the second section of piping that I'm going to make. So for the second layer of icing, I just basically did a long chain that was going to basically go underneath the top layer and kind of curve underneath it. So I did a chain of roughly about 64, and then I just did the exact same thing. I pinned the chain underneath so that it kind of hung underneath the icing on top, and I just sewed that on as well with embroidery thread. And then as a little added detail, I just sewed the pearl beads on to the kind of top corner sections of the icing, just to make it a little bit neater and cover up any kind of bits that looked a bit off. And then for the stick candle, I basically made a chain that was long enough to wrap around the entire stick of the candle, and then I did 3 half double crochets into each back bump all the way across to create that thicker frill, and then I just wrapped that around and sewed it on. Okay, so after I attached the frills just by sewing them with some embroidery thread, this is what the final result is looking like for this candle. And now I'm going to show you how to make the red hearts for your pink candle. And I'm basically going to be just taking my deep red yarn. You can use whatever colour you want. And I'm just going to start off by making a slip knot and chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to slip stitch into that 3rd chain to create a ring, and we're going to be crocheting into this ring. So just like we did before, I'm going to pull apart the work and I'm going to crochet into that small hole in the centre. And I'm going to start off with a single crochet, and I'm doing my normal single crochets for this red heart, so no yarn under. So I'm just going to insert my hook into the centre of the ring, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2. Then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to make 2 single crochets into the ring. That's 1, and that's 2. Then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to make another 2 single crochets. That's 1, that's 2, and then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to make another single crochet, and then I'm going to finish the heart by making a slip stitch into the ring, like that. And I've crocheted all of these stitches over the tail, so when I bring that tail in, it should draw everything in. And then I'm just going to pull out the yarn tail, like that, and cut it, just pull it out. And then you can just weave these ends into the back of the work, and that is essentially your love heart. And then you can just sew each of your love hearts to the candle. You can make as many as you want, and I'm just going to kind of randomly scatter them around the candles. And I am also going to add a few little beads to my love hearts as well, but you don't have to do this. I just wanted to add a little bit of extra detail. Okay, sorry guys, so the audio for this clip has completely muted, I don't know how, so I'm just going to explain everything for the plates, but it's nice and simple. We're basically going to be repeating what we've been doing, so I'm making a slip knot, chaining 4, and then slip stitching into that 4th chain and doing my first 8 yarn under single crochets into that ring, and then I'm going to do my increase rows until I reach round 16, which will be 14 single crochets and then an increase, repeat around. And once I've reached round 16 is where I'm just going to basically do one round of single crochet, 1 in each stitch, so no increases, and that is the final round, so that's round 17. After round 17 you then just want to fasten it off, and then you want to make a second plate, and then that is where we're going to be attaching them together. So before we attach the 2 plates together, you just want to pick one of the plates and sew all of your candles with some embroidery thread or yarn, whatever you want, to the top of the plate, and make sure that it's nice and stable, and then I'm going to show you how we attach them together. Okay, so now I have all of my candles attached on top, and I've got both of my flat plate type things laying on top of each other, so I've got the right sides on the outside. So I'm just going to make a slip knot with my white yarn, and you can line these up at any point, it doesn't need to be exact, but you basically just want to attach the edges together with either a single crochet or a slip stitch, whichever you prefer. I'm going to be doing a single crochet. So with your slip knot, you just want to insert your hook at any point on the front panel into the back loop like this, and the same for the back panel, grabbing that front loop, so these 2 inside loops. Then you want to pull your slip knot through both of those inside loops and then chain 1 to attach it. and I'm just going to be doing a round of single crochet into these inside loops to attach them together. So I'm going to go into the exact same spot that I was just in, insert my hook into both of those inside loops. I'm just going to loop that tail over and make a single crochet, and I'm doing my normal single crochet for this. So I'm going to yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through 2. So I'm just going to do that all the way around, going into my next inside loop on the front panel and the inside loop on the back panel. Make my single crochet through both, and again into the next stitch, grabbing that back loop on the front panel and the front loop on the back panel, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So I'm just going to complete that all the way around, just doing single crochets into each stitch all the way around. When I get to the end, I'm going to slip stitch back into that first single crochet that we made and then fasten off, and then I'm going to show you the final step, which is just going to be some of the final details. So for some extra details, I decided to just take some of the rest of the red yarn that I had, and I just basically sewed a dotted line to create that kind of like hand stitched look, which I just really love the effect and the contrast it makes. And then I decided to add some ribbon, so I basically just chained up 35 for my ribbon, and then I just looped it into the plate and then tied it in a bow, and that was pretty much it. And this is the final result. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial and loved making your candles. Let me know what yours came out like, and if you have any ideas of what you'd like me to make next, then feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.